You may have heard about the Candyman. Not this one. I am talking about the real Candymano. Yes, the classic horror legend Candyman was inspired by Dean Corll was an American serial killer who murdered at least 28 boys and young men in Houston, Texas, between 1970 and 1973. He was known as the Candyman because he worked at a candy factory and often lured his victims with the promise of candy. Corll was born in Fort Wayne, Indiana in 1939. He was raised by his mother and grandmother after his father abandoned the family when he was young. Corll was a troubled child who was diagnosed with schizophrenia and epilepsy. He was also physically and sexually abused by his mother's boyfriend. In 1960, Corll moved to Houston, Texas, where he worked as a delivery driver for a candy factory. He also began molesting young boys. In 1970, he met Elmer Wayne Henley, a 14-year-old boy who was also being abused by his parents. Corll befriended Henley and began giving him money and gifts. He also introduced Henley to his other victims. Corll and Henley lured their victims to Corll's boathouse, where they would tie them up, torture them, and strangle them to death. They would then bury the bodies in the woods near Corll's home. The murders came to an end in 1973, when Henley shot and killed Corll after Corll attempted to murder Henley's friend, David Brooks. Henley then led police to the bodies of the victims.
Who?
Mama,
Who's this?
it's Wayne.
Yes, this is Mama, baby.
Mama,
Huh?
I killed Dean.
Corll was buried in an unmarked grave. His victims were never identified. Corll's crimes were shocking and horrific. He was a monster who preyed on the innocent. His story is a reminder of the dangers that lurk in our society. It is also a reminder of the importance of speaking out against abuse and violence. In addition to Henley, Corll also had another accomplice, David Owen Brooks. Brooks was 17 years old when he met Corll and Henley. He helped Corll lure victims and dispose of their bodies. Brooks was sentenced to 60 years in prison, but was released in 1985. He died in 2015. The Candyman murders are one of the most infamous serial killer cases in American history. Corll's crimes are a reminder of the darkness that can exist in the human heart. It is important to remember his victims and to fight against all forms of abuse and violence. This was the video, guys. If you are loving these serial episodes, please do subscribe and hit the like button. We will meet soon.